Scary story. Today I have for you not just a story but memories from a man who has seen things that you can't even dream of in your worst nightmares. He served in the police for many years and this story still gives him goosebumps. My name is Jay, and I want to share with you a story that still doesn't leave my head. Many years have passed, but I remember everything as if it happened yesterday. I served in the police for many years. It happened that when we went out to 911 calls, I didn't have a partner. I'm still grateful to fate that Rob was with me that very time. We were on duty at night with him. Our patrol car was parked in a dark alley, squeezed between brick walls. We were waiting to catch drivers who were speeding. It was about 1 in the morning when a call came in. Someone reported that a woman was walking down the street barefoot holding a child in her arms and muttering something under her breath. That's all they told us. We immediately went to the scene and Rob and I were tense from the very beginning, especially because of the area where we were called. It was known for its bad reputation. Something was always happening there. We drove around the area several times, but didn't see the woman anywhere. Then we decided to park and knock on a few doors. The person who called 911 didn't introduce himself, so we couldn't contact him directly and find out more. It was the middle of the night, people were asleep, and we had to make do with information from people who happened to be on the street. Did you see this? Rob suddenly asked. Someone flashed and disappeared behind the wooden gate of one of the houses. Rob and I ran there, hoping that we could catch up with him, our potential suspect. I saw curtains move in the windows of neighboring houses, people peering out with curiosity. Watching 2 police officers who were prowling through their yards, it looked like this man had entered someone's backyard through an unlocked gate. We turned on flashlights and followed him into the backyard. It was pitch dark. In the narrow beams of our flashlights, we could hardly see anything. I noticed that the flashlight in Rob's hand was shaking slightly. Are you okay? I asked him. And I'm okay. Come on. It's normal to be scared, I said, grinning. Get lost, he muttered in response. The rusty swings on the playground creaked and swayed in the light night breeze, and the leaves on the trees around us quietly rustled. I was so nervous that I could only imagine what was happening to my partner. Excuse me, sir, I asked him. Suddenly the door of the house facing the backyard opened and an elderly woman appeared on the threshold. Excuse me, ma'am, I said. We'll leave your property right now. I didn't mean to scare you. My partner and I are looking for the woman, the officer reported. I'm hard of hearing. Could you come inside? The owner interrupted me. I went into the house to talk to her, while my partner stayed outside and continued to examine the backyard. I explained to the woman that we were looking for a strange woman who was walking around the neighborhood, with a child in her arms. While I was talking to the owner, a scream was heard outside. Rob, are you okay? I shouted. Out the window, it seemed he saw a ghost that appeared right before his eyes and then melted into thin air. I saw her. Ice, he muttered. That woman. What did she look like? Come on, Rob. Speak. He fell silent for a moment, trying to catch his breath and pressing his hands to his chest. She ran up the wall right before my eyes. She just ran up this wall. Jay. Like an animal. He pointed to a 2-story house. I didn't know what to think as far as I knew. Rob never had mental problems and he definitely didn't use anything. I knew him well enough to say with confidence that he would never make anything up, especially in such a serious matter as our work. Well, I started hesitantly, and you didn't see where did she go? After she well climbed over the wall into the bushes above. Those metal gates, he said, shining a flashlight on them. I saw how they moved with weapons at the ready. We current gates and ended up in the neighboring area. Wait, said Rob, I heard you call for backup. Maybe we should wait for them. No, we can't handle this backyard together. It turned out to be even bigger than the previous one. We pointed the flashlight beams at a rickety wooden shed in the corner of the yard. We hadn't even taken a step in its direction when we heard someone crying. It sounded like a child was crying. Police! I shouted, and with a sharp movement, I knocked down the door of the shed. We looked inside. The woman wasn't there, but there was a plastic child. Rob pointed the flashlight beam at the floor of the shed. What the hell was that? There was a mechanical doll lying on the floor. It was a doll that could reproduce recorded sounds. Someone had clearly planted it there to lure us. I didn't like it at all. Not a minute had passed. As from the first house in the backyard we were examining, I heard a heart-rending female scream. I rushed back to that house but noticed that Rob wasn't following me. He hadn't even moved from his place. Let's go. What the hell are you standing there? I screamed at him. My partner's eyes were wider open. He was looking at me, raisin in the mouth as if he saw something terrible. I can't. I just can't. Jay, sorry. I didn't have time to argue with him, so I jumped over the gate and found myself in the old lady's yard again. What happened? I asked her. I saw her. She was right there. The old lady pointed the backyard to a place near the glass door. She was standing right there, just standing and looking at me, and it seems to me she was smiling. Well, and which way is she at that moment? Another scream. My partner's scream. I rushed back to the barn, but the robot was no longer there. Plastic, the baby was also gone. I called for him, looked everywhere, but he just disappeared. You know this mysterious woman. seemed to sense fear. It seemed she was hunting for him, and in that night, Rob had more than enough of it. When reinforcements finally arrived, I probably had to explain to my superiors hundreds of times what happened. It all happened many years ago, and Rob was never found. This case still remains unsolved when I remember that night. I get goosebumps like nothing else. It's mysterious. She played some kind of game with us, and it feels like she won, thanks to her experience or something. I don't even know why I still call her a woman a person. Because judging by Rob's description, she was something else a year past. I had several partners and I continued to work in the same city, and sometimes my new partner John and I had to go out on calls to that very ill-fated area. Over time I almost stopped thinking about all this, but I never forgot Rob. One night my partner and I were sitting in a patrol car, when the call came in, a routine call, until the dispatcher mentioned that a woman was spotted on the street talking to herself and holding a crying child in her arms. "Honey, wake up, wife," and shook me hard, so that I woke up. "Get up quickly," she whispered, but I heard that she was very worried. I turned and looked at the clock. It was a little after 3 a.m. I needed a little time to understand where I was. I took my glasses from the nightstand and looked at my wife in the moonlight. She was almost invisible, but I realized that she was upset. "What happened? Why aren't you sleeping?" I asked, blinking quickly to make the sleep go away. My eyes were wide open with fear. She leaned towards me and whispered in my ear, "James, someone is in the house." From her dreams I became very scared. I quickly looked around, pressed my finger to my lips, showing her to be quiet. I quietly got out of bed, took the bat that I was holding behind the dresser, and slowly walked to the bedroom door. Adrenaline began to rise. My heart was beating so loudly that I was afraid that whoever was in the house could hear it. I slowly opened the bedroom door and looked out into the hallway, and then I heard quiet blows, barely audible, but still understandable. They were coming from the kitchen. Then I heard footsteps, a quiet rustle, and a quiet whisper. There was definitely someone in my house. I looked at my wife. She was still very scared. Her eyes darted between me and the door, and Maya whispered as quietly as possible, "Call 911 right now." She quickly nodded and took the phone from the nightstand, quickly looked at me and started dialing the number I once again showed her to be quiet. I pressed the bat harder and went out into the hallway. It was so dark that I almost couldn't see the walls. I walked in small quiet steps until I reached the entrance to our living room. Now the whispers were louder, and I could make out some words. "Isn't this guy rich?" one voice asked irritably. "Maybe he has bad life insurance since he can't even buy a normal TV." Another voice said. With a laugh I cringed when the beam of a flashlight suddenly illuminated the corridor in my direction. "Did you hear that, guys?" said an irritated voice. No. "Oh, you're just scared," finally said another voice from the darkness. Suddenly something fell to the floor and broke with a clang. I held my breath to keep from screaming. "This fright. What the damn it?" The third lower voice whispered angrily. "Sorry, dude. I didn't mean to," the first voice said, upset. "Just find that damn safe so we can get out of here. I don't feel comfortable here." I felt like my heart was going to jump out. I could have handled it with one, but there were at least 3 men in my living room. I tried to calm my breathing before going forward again. Suddenly a flashlight beam slid down the hallway and hit me right between the shoulder blades. "I thought you said he was out of town," a third voice said loudly. He was very angry. I immediately ran back to the bedroom. I ran into the room, slammed the door and locked it for a second. I stopped and listened. I didn't hear anything. No whispers. No footsteps. I quickly pushed the bookcase that stood next to the door and ran into the bathroom, locking that door too. And then I heard a loud knock on the bedroom door. I reached it often. My heart was beating very fast. I started to cry quietly, clutching the bat tightly. Vague voices were coming from behind the door. They were probably arguing about what they would do to me when they found me. "Tell me where Sev is, old man. You don't want to die, do you?" And it was getting louder and louder. Suddenly I heard the sound of police sirens. They were approaching my house. "Oh damn, you're a corpse." The old man knocked even louder. The sound was deafening. I covered my ears for a few seconds, and then the room became quiet. I heard footsteps moving away down the hallway. Then some quiet rustling and everything went quiet. Eventually the police found these people not far from my house. They managed to take only a few inexpensive things, while other police officers were looking for the rest. A few people stayed with me to make sure I was okay. "You weren't hurt, sir. We need to take you to the hospital." I was very scared, but fortunately I wasn't hurt. "No, I'm fine," I answered with a trembling voice. My hands hesitantly held the glass of water that the policeman gave me, while another asked me, The usual questions, sir. You said you were at home. One dispatcher said that the call at 9 hours, 11 minutes was made by a woman. Your wife is at home. We didn't find anyone else. He pointed to the ring on my finger. I froze, and the glass fell out of my hands and smashed on the floor. I looked at the policeman and felt my face go cold. How could I forget? Until that moment, I didn't even think about it. You see, I didn't care about the robbery anymore. The thing is that my aunt's wife has been dead for over a year now. She died in an accident last summer, right before our anniversary, sir. Are you okay? The policeman looked at me carefully, noticing that something was wrong with me. I turned my head towards the house, and questions were spinning in my head. Is this some kind of evil joke? I'm sleeping, but one question was still repeating in my head. Who called at 9 hours 11 minutes?